All right, shalom, everybody. Welcome back at it again. Hopefully, you all are doing all right. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect His message. Amen. Amen. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. So hopefully, you all are doing all right. This is our evening live sessions. So the evening lives are a lot shorter than the lives that we do every rising at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern New York time. Thank you for being on with us. And we appreciate you guys so very much. We're excited to have an opportunity to come before you again. Shalom, Mr. Samuel. Shalom, Brother Thomas. Shalom, Shea Butter. How you doing? Shalom to everybody who's coming on here. So there's going to be a shorter than usual live. Got a meeting to attend to. Actually, Minister Tamara, if it's all right, in the meeting I think we were going to have, my wife, you and I might make the live a little shorter so we can have the meeting a little earlier. Hopefully that works for you. I know I had said at a certain time, but getting ready to go on the road and need to rest up a little bit more and get every little bit of rest I can. So if that's all right with you, hopefully we can do that. And still need to get you that email. Okay, that works. Cool. Okay, so we'll probably be finished 20-30 minutes total on this. Because tonight's not really a long, drawn out conversation, but it's a quick one, but it's profound. It's something that's necessary for us to hear. If we, as a people, and once again, we give all praise to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. I give all praise to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. And we're thankful and grateful for each and every one of you for joining us. Shalom, Sister Benita. How you doing? So real quick to everybody on here, we want to have a discussion once again about, today's discussion rather is about colorism. Colorism is something that we have to make sure we deal with before we even get to racism. People usually go to racism first, but don't talk about colorism. Colorism, you can say as a result of racism. Racism, you might even be able to say as a result of colorism. They go hand in hand. If not careful, they can even look like the same person. Maybe you can even call them twins. But colorism is a crucial component of racism. It's something that's important for us to deal with because colorism is something we can deal with in-house. Racism is something that it affects our house. However, we can find a way, as far as community is concerned, to be able to deal with colorism without having to have the effects of racism, because we can block racism out if we make sure we're culturally, as a culture, as a family, we're connected, right? So racism can be blocked out. Colorism is in-house. Colorism is something that we can talk about the physical, the physical component of colorism. There's also a virtual component of colorism. There's also an emotional component of colorism. There's a social component of colorism. It seeps into everything, and it is something that is crucial, even to the effect of, before we even talk about, somebody might have grown up saying, light skin better than dark skin, or having good hair, or fair, or being a fair complexion is better than something else. You also get to a place to where if somebody doesn't act a certain way, we say that they're not acting black enough, right? If somebody speaks a certain way, we say that they're acting white. Why are you acting white? A lot of times when somebody says you're uppity, they're saying you're acting white. And colorism is something that we can attack in-house. So racism is something, sure, we need to call it out, but racism is one of those things that we deal with when we're in the world or in the system, but when we're not of it, something that we're still holding on to is colorism. Shalom, Virtual Sasha, how you doing? So colorism is something that's in-house. We have the ability to deal with it and stop fighting each other. Anytime we have a fight in-house where we distrust each other, all it is a form of colorism. right? If you have the house Negro versus the field Negro, all it is really a form of colorism. You can say, sure, the colorism was set up by somebody else, but colorism is something that we use amongst ourselves. Colorism sets up classism. I know people personally that were light-skinned and grew up, in the 50s and 60s, and their experience is that they were not helped out by people because of the color of their skin. Eartha Kitt, if you want to do some research on her, somebody who resulted as her mother being raped. And there were people that wouldn't take her mother in when they were homeless, literally every night at sometimes in her life, going from house to house to house to house, trying to do some sharecropping as much as they can to make a tiny bit of change, and then going from house to house to house to house again. And she grew up with a lot of people that would not accept her family in-house, in their homes, who were black, because her daughter, right, the mother's daughter, Eartha Kitt's mother, so Eartha Kitt was too light-skinned. And since she was light-skinned, they didn't like her because she was too uppity already. Even if they knew nothing about her, she was considered to be something different, something that was wrong. Colorism. And we still do the same thing today, right? If somebody decides to speak English in a certain manner, we say that they're speaking too white, right? However, if they speak slang, they're not speaking white enough, or they're speaking too black, or they're speaking ignorance. However, the person that speaks slang does not mean that the person has no intelligence. And in-house, we're having this fight. Colorism affects marriage. Colorism affects marriage because there are people who will marry people because they are light-skinned, or marry people because they're dark-skinned. Malcolm X, another example of something where we flip and shift the paradigm a little bit, where Malcolm X, his mother was very light-skinned, almost light enough to pass as white. Hey, babe, my wife, the Honorable Maya, is on. Who does it like to say, able to be honored? So I call her that. You can follow her on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, but the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. When we're talking about colorism, going back to Malcolm X is a great example because his mother was born very light-skinned, and she married his father specifically. One of the qualities she found in him that made her say, I want to marry you, is that his father was dark-skinned, very dark-skinned, and she wanted her children to have some color. She had light skin because her grandmother was raped by a white man. And when she was raped, she had a very light color. Her mother did, and so she had a very light color as well when she was born. And so out of his brothers and sisters, Malcolm X was got a child to where she didn't show quite the same affection. She still loved him, still raised him, still took care of him. However, did not show the same affection that she did his older siblings. Why? Because he was, even though he was what we would consider to maybe be dark skinned or darker skinned, in his house he was the lightest. And so since he was the lightest, he didn't get quite the love from his mother, right? So therefore you have, it's easy to see how Malcolm X goes to schools and is considered to be the N-word and called it so much that he thinks it's his name and he's a mascot. He gets a little older, he starts getting his hair permed, and when he gets it permed, he doesn't say, oh, my hair looks good. He says, my hair looks white, don't it? Even go to the Malcolm X movie. I'm pretty sure in the Malcolm X movie, when he gets his hair permed and he turns around, everybody starts saying, ooh, look at you. If you remember that scene, and when they do, he goes, yeah, it looks white, don't it? And it gives everybody, that old school five. Right? You said your mom experienced that? Yeah. A lot of people have. Even to the point now where people will come out and say, because I was light-skinned in school, people didn't like the fact that I was light-skinned and I was pretty. And you have people that are saying this, and it's like, well, hold on. Why do you think that because you were light-skinned, you were automatically pretty? If that was the mindset you walked around with, you probably be throwing a bunch of people off. However, if you were trained to be like the white person thinks they all that, then you have this jealousy that seeps in. It might not be what we put in ourselves, but it's something we deal with every day. And before we can talk about racism, before we can talk about making sure that we have our community together, before we start getting this land together that we're getting together, we have to first get to a place to where we wipe out colorism, where we don't allow colorism to be the thing that's stopping you and I from being with each other. That we don't say because you don't dress black enough. That's colorism, right? It might not be the physical color, but now, because he wears suits and he wears dashikis and he wears tunics and he wears et cetera, that they're a different type of black. The reality is we're all one people, the diaspora, right? Oh, he doesn't speak enough African languages. He speaks languages, but he only speaks European languages, So, like we teach in our school, for example, right? We teach French, we teach Hebrew. Eventually we start teaching Kiswahili, right? We teach these different things, but right, we speak English. It doesn't mean that the person that doesn't speak Kiswahili is not black or is not as black. There might be some cultural things they're missing because they're not there, but it doesn't mean that they're any less black, right? We have to get over that. That's how you have a person who's a rapper who's interviewed, and they talk about what kind of girl is he attracted to, and he says, I can't have a baby with a dark skinned girl. And they say, well, why are you dark skinned? Why is she not beautiful? Why don't you think of yourself as beautiful? He says, well, I can't have my children being as black as I am. Right, colorism, where he now I think it was Kodak Black. I can't remember who said it, but whoever the rapper was, they're saying when I look in the mirror, I look at myself as bad because I come from a system to where somebody who looks like me is bad. And by the way, think about how many times, and people call it the dozens, or where I'm from, you call it Jonan or whatever, you're making fun of people. How many jokes have to do with being black? How many times did people say things to children growing up, calling them African booty scratcher because they were dark skinned? How many times did people make jokes to say, hey, your parents grew up wearing sandals and stuff, and we laughed at it because black people grew up in tropical climates? Colorism. We're trying to deal with racism, but we don't even deal with colorism. We're not even dealing with loving ourselves, right? And you're always going to have somebody who's going to come out there. That's why when people come out and they say things to me like, oh, you're usually a white person, not always, but usually somebody who's either white or thinking in a very Eurocentric manner. They're thinking in a very Eurocentric manner. Often will say, hey, you don't need a handout. People come on the lives. You don't need a handout. People come in the comment section videos. You don't need a handout. Nobody's asking you for a handout. Nobody's asking you for a handout. We're not asking you for that, right? We want to get ourselves together. PTSS, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, book written by Dr. Joy DeGruy. We want to get ourselves correct. We want to make sure that we're in proper position, that we love ourselves, that we love what we look like. I think the fact that, my hair naturally, it doesn't, as much as it looks like it's seeping down, it naturally wants to go up and wants to reach towards the heavens. That's great. Right. I love that. I love the fact, that my hair, as much as people say you need to cut this off or this loosen and blah, blah, like I can't just pull it off. They think it's just as simple as pulling it off. This is strong. This is strength. The same pattern that's in this is what we see in the stars at night. Right. And yeah, love ourselves in our natural state, right? And our natural state, by the way, just like plants' life natural state, is to be diverse, right? It's a natural state. We go outside, the mulberry tree in the front with the white mulberries, the mulberry tree in the back with the dark mulberries. They both taste great when the mulberries come down, right? The pine tree right next to the mulberry tree, they don't look the same. Right, but they both help naturally as far as natural medicine and teas and things like that, right? The turmeric that's growing outside, it doesn't have to look like the mulberry tree, but it's great. They don't have to be the same shades of green in order to be healthy and in order to cause a great environment, right? They don't have to attract the same wildlife in order to be attractive. They all have their place. They all are plant life. They don't discriminate. Matter of fact, they like to be around each other so much that some of them wrap around others. There's vines out there that want to wrap around some of the trees and some of the things out there because they know that those trees are grounded enough to be able to get some nutrients. They try to go around and to get up high to be able to see if they can get some sun. You said mankind is the only species of Elohim's creation that refused to be kind? Huh. Yeah. Yeah, well, even there's a difference between man and even mankind. Right? But yeah, definitely. Right. But even when it comes to kind should just mean family. Right. So the family of man, and man is really a spirit. if anything else. But, human is different than man. Human is humus man, hue, dark, rich, nutrient colored earth, with a man, a spirit inside, and then it has a soul. The soul attaches, but I'm with you. I'm very micro, so hopefully it doesn't seem like I'm picking your point out. I'm just very micro. Somebody says something and my mind starts racing. So I apologize. I apologize if it comes off like I'm disagreeing with you. We agree, but we're dealing with what? We're dealing with, we as human beings have so much colorism and so much division amongst ourselves. Okay, cool. I just want to let you know. I know I get so stuck when somebody gives me a very valid point or something. That's why sometimes, if you notice on the lives, especially in the rising sessions, in the early sessions, I will sometimes say what somebody says and kind of move on, because I know me. If I stay there, like, we can stay on something for 2 hours straight before I even be like, oh yeah, this is what we're supposed to be talking about. I've had to train my mind not to do that. But once again, colorism. Colorism is something that's there, and we're dealing with it, and it's hate for each other, right? Colorism, the viewpoints that you have is not black enough, it's black enough, this and that. Like, even think about Africa, Afrik, color, these people that are dark skinned or whatever, they had different cultures even within that and had to learn how to share within it. Oh, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. So, hey, how you doing? Is it got that? Oh, got that J. Okay, all right. How you doing? Bear in a jar. Hey, missed you as well. Appreciate you. Thanks for being on. Long time no talk to. Long time no talk to. Thanks for being back on. Right. So colorism is something that we can deal with in the in house. Yeah, got that, Jay. I think I've been thinking your name is something different. That's why I was saying I think I just finally got your name. But colorism is something we can handle in house. Colorism starts with saying that the color. Now watch this. We're not going to do the I don't see color thing, right? Because if you can't see color, you can't see me. However, just because I cannot see color, right? Just because I cannot see color, or I'm sorry, just because we have different color, rather, I don't have to not see it, right? I can respect your color and still see that we're family, right? Oh, okay, stir up knowledge. You saying listen to the jingles for children? I probably did. I listened to a bunch of stuff and getting a lot of stuff. Please forgive me for not striking, being right up in my at the top of my memory. Especially for some months, I've been extremely busy. I'm just finally catching up on like a year's worth of stuff. So please forgive me. um, yeah. But colorism is something that we can handle, right? Colorism is something that we can handle. Colorism is something we can look at as a community, as a people, and have reality and think about these things correct. We can get to a place to where we go back to being humanity and even being culturally acceptable amongst ourselves. Right? Okay, cool. Right? Colorism is something that we can get back to say that I love you no matter how you come, right? Amongst ourselves. I keep saying this over and over again. I'll give this analogy again, something the Most High gave me a while ago. It's like if you have a poker game and you sit down to play poker, right? And to sit down at that table, you go to the casino, wherever you're playing, and you get your chips or whatever, and they start sliding the chips and everything around the table, and you're ready to play. They say, well, hey, you need $50,000 worth of chips just to be able to play this game. You can't just be some random cat coming up. You got to have something. Like, you can't just show up and be like, hey, just give me, $50 worth of chips. No, you need 50,000 or else you can't play. What we do as a people is we say, well, we see, and I'm just throwing out different names, but we say, what about the European? He's playing. And what about the American? He's playing. And what about the Russian? I guess Russian is European and not so much, but what about the Asian person? He's playing. What about this? What about that? And you stole from us in this, and you stole from us in that. And they look at you, they say, that's not the name of the game. We beg, we plead, we march, we picket, whatever. And somebody finally gives you just enough. They say, fine, here's some chips. You can play one game. So they get right. So we only had like maybe 20,000. They give us the other 30,000 amongst these other people. They say, fine, you can play. Some people give it to us because they say, hey, it's not fair. They don't get to play. We get 50,000. We sit down. We lose the first hand because we don't even know how to play. We don't know what kind of poker is it Texas Hold'em, whatever. We don't know. We get whooped. We lose everything. And we say, hey, it's not fair. I didn't know how to play. I didn't know this and that or whatever. They say, we don't care. Look, we let you play. Right? This is what we need to do. You go away from there. You know what the stakes are. You know how much money you need. You know somebody had 500 million and was using, and so that's easy for them to have 50,000 words. Somebody else had 5 million. Somebody else had 100,000. Somebody had whatever, right? But everybody had more than you. You didn't have enough. Now you have nothing again. And we keep going through the cycle of, okay, somebody gives us a little bit, we go back to nothing. If somebody gives us a little bit, we go back to nothing. And then we go back fighting amongst ourselves, not building anything. What we need to do is go back and build ourselves up and make sure that we get over these differences amongst each other and this systemic and systematic oppression that is over us. And we come back and we got ourselves together. And now when we sit down at the table, they say, man, you back again. We told you last time you were here that you got to have 50,000 in hand. And we just simply put out $5 million. They say, whoa, where'd you get all that money from? And we even win a couple hands. Oh, wait a minute. Where'd you learn to play? That doesn't matter. That doesn't concern you. We got ourselves together and we can look you in the eye. And one of the reasons why people can't look you in the eye is because we're so busy fighting against each other, we're not ready. It's like Dr. John Henry Clark said, before we talk about all these different things, hey, how you doing, Iron? Before we talk about all these different things, hey, Cheryl, how you doing? Before we talk about all these different things and all these different things that everybody else needs to do for us, and we need to make sure people respect us and all, respect yourself. Colorism, right? Why is it that the black woman doesn't do blah, blah? Why isn't it the black man doesn't do blah, blah? Well, you don't say that about the white man and the white woman, and they got just as much problems, if not more so than you. You don't say that about the Chinese man and the Chinese woman, they got just as much problem, if not more so than you do too. Right? But you're waiting on them to respect you. You don't respect yourselves. You don't respect each other. You're not one. You're not whole. There's too much systemic oppression and stuff set up. So therefore, before you asking somebody else to respect you, you got to learn how to respect yourself. Black man, you want the wife to submit? That's great. Okay, be willing to make sure that you are able to put in her what she needs, to provide an environment that she wants to listen to provide a place where she feels secure, to provide a place where she can have her vision taken care of as well. And when you do that, she'll see if you're worthy of submission. And by the way, when she submits, she's not a doormat. She's there to be your helpmeet. So she takes whatever you give her and she multiplies it. And vice versa, right? Black woman, you want this man to make sure you're secure and this and that or whatever. Understand that he will make sure you're as secure, as heard as he feels, right? As respected as he feels. That's the amount of security he will provide. Period. You want to know? I've talked about this before on other lives. You want to know something, a secret, ladies, right? You want to know why your man can have a busted vehicle or a nice vehicle or a brand new custom vehicle. No matter what the situation of the vehicle is, he will make sure he washes the vehicle, he waxes the vehicle. The paint can be peeling off. He's gonna make sure he vacuums it and cleans it out and gets the wheels, the inside of the wheels done. He's gonna detail it. If he's not gonna do it, he's gonna pay somebody $75, $100, $200 to detail his car. You want to know why he'll do all that for the vehicle? Because the vehicle serves him. And anything that serves a man, he will hold on to it. If it's underwear, you seen your man and his underwear got holes in it and stuff, you're like, how in the world you still wearing this, bro? Like, this got to be hurting you when you wearing it. He got money for the underwear, but he's still going to wear it. Why? Because the underwear serves him. Anything that serves him, he says, I've got to make sure it's secured. I've got to take care of it. That's how we're wired. That's how we're created. Right? So make him feel like he's heard. Make him feel like he's somebody who's supported. When he comes home from a hard day, he's been getting everything from everybody else. Give him some time to decompress. I promise you, he's going to serve you better than he serves the car, because it's just the car. We know that, right? We want our wife to have the diamonds. We want our wife to have her nails done. We want our wife to have all this. I'm just telling you, bro. Somebody said exactly me, right? Like, that's how we're wired. And fellas, you want your wife to be able to help you out and do these things or whatever. Well, guess what? Like, make sure she feels like she's secure. If she want to work, she can work, but she don't have to. Right? She wants to have an environment for the children where everything's taken care of. Okay, make sure that she feels like she can take care of whatever the children's needs are. You see what I'm saying? Like, you want, a wife, a little girl has been raised. Little girls were playing with Barbie dolls. Well, we were playing with cars and stuff. They were playing with Barbie and Ken and practicing to walk down the aisle. They waited their whole life for that. Right? We haven't been trained. We should have been, but we haven't been trained for that. We were trained to play with G.I. Joe. We were trained to play with the fellas outside. We were trained to hit people as hard as you can. That's what our manhood was. Our manhood was, can I run you over when somebody says hike? If you throw, look, I'm 6'5.5". Somebody throw the football in the air, and my goal was to be able to jump over everybody and catch the ball every time. Still to this day, I take pride in it. That ball touches my fingers, any part of my hand. If it touches my hand, that's supposed to be a catch. I don't care how bad the throw is. If I can touch it with my hand, I'm supposed to catch it. Yeah, right? It was about competition. It was about all these different things. But she wasn't raised in competition, right? She wasn't raised in competition. She was raised to make sure that she was going to raise babies and to feel like she could, provide food, but somebody was going to help her with the provision. She don't mind making the food, but who's going to help with the provision for the food? Right? Like she was ready for all those different things. We were the ones that were raised out of pocket in that. That was done strategically on purpose to where people see more in Ja Morant or LeBron James or whomever. They see more in the basketball player than they do in the person that makes sure that he provides an environment for his family. Right? That's in getting yourself together. That's all colorism. In essence, that's all colorism. Before we're dealing with racism and everybody else, we need to stop dropping the ball amongst ourselves. There's certain fights that don't need to go outside of us. There's certain conversations we don't need to have with the white man anymore. I'm not trying to say that you can't talk to white people. I'm not trying to say that we're segregating. I'm just being honest with you. Before you start saying, Mr. White Man, give me this and this and this. Mr. Ally, give me this and this and this. Mrs. Feminist, give me this and this and this. Whatever the case might be, you got to first be in a position to where you say, hey, I love you. I care for you. I'll take care of you. Can you take care of me? Here's some drama that I'm carrying that's generational, that's not even mine. Right? I'm just saying, like, we haven't had it. It's like if you're dealing with people who are in Alcoholics Anonymous. I sat in on a couple of classes, but usually they don't allow people who aren't in Alcoholics Anonymous to sit in there. Why? Because alcoholics deal with alcoholics. They take care of each other. They get sponsors. The sponsors watch them and do things or whatever. They give them rides to places. They make sure they get jobs. They set them up for success. They hang in there with them. They say, you can call me any time of night. They give them a little reward. You get even coins and stuff like that. You made it this many years without drinking. You've done this. You've done that. Right? Some people even say, oh, it's wrong. You're turning into a religion. Yeah, in a sense, it's a religion. Religion. Anything a legion of people do repetitively is a religion. And they are religiously trying to get alcoholics to deal with what they dealt with and never go back down that road again. You can argue the route they take, fine. At the end of the day, though, it's very impressive to be able to make sure that you have a group of people worldwide who will look out for you just because they share the same problem. Right? Am I a Nicki fan? I don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm not a fan of Nicki Minaj, no. I think Nicki Minaj actually could be a lot better than what she was. I guess she might come back at some point, but that's not, I feel like she has a lot more talent than what she's giving off. If your starting point was Monster, and then you basically had nothing else after that, I think you can do a lot better with your career. But, she did what she did to make her money or whatever. She got out the game. Maybe she'll come back. Maybe she'll be better when she comes back. I don't know. Nevertheless, the point is that even in all that, there'll be some people that say, see, Nicki, she's tearing apart the black community, this and that or whatever. She's still our sister. You'll hear me say that a lot. There are people out here and say a lot of wild stuff against each other, right? And they'll say, see, they messing up the community. They doing this fine. You know what? You don't like what Kanye has to say. I don't always like what Kanye has to say, even though he's put some gems out there too. Nevertheless, I don't always like what Kanye has to say. Still my brother. I'm not going to I'm not going to do the whole, what's this thing people do now all over social media? We in the black community, we go ahead and give up, blah, 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 to white people. And white people, we don't want to either. You can't, then the Asian community, we don't want to eat. No. You don't need to give that to anybody. That's ours. That's ours. I got children that don't act right. Still mine. There's little boys and little girls that I've dealt with from when they were little, and their fathers and mothers weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And I was out here teaching them and sometimes outright raising them, outright taking them to things that they've never gone to and taking them on trips and making sure they were getting schoolwork done and telling them that they were great, even when their parents were sitting there saying the exact opposite of what they should have heard. Right? Still hanging in there with them because that's ours. That's mine. That's our people. If everybody, who was it, Dr. Cloud Anderson, who said if you saw people if it was your family in the water and they drowning, and it doesn't look like you're going to be able to save them or whatever. But you know what? You're going to do everything you can. You might even end up drowning yourself, but you're going to try your best to save them. Now, I'm not saying you should drown, right? Maybe you should make sure you got the flotation device for yourself or whatever, but you're going to go out there. You're going to do everything you can. Everybody else is saying, no, it's crazy. It's foolish. Don't reach out there. Don't go out for good. We just saved you. There's no way. We might not be able to save them. Everything in you, though, is going to say, I'm going to save them. You know why? Because that's your people. That's your family. That's your wife. That's your children. I'm not expecting somebody else to save mine. Matter of fact, if others would stop trying so hard to save mine, I might be able to save them, because other people keep trying to tell them about stuff culturally that has nothing to do with them, and then trying to figure out why they're having such a hard time. I heard this today. I actually put this in a duet today. It was David Banner in an interview, and the interview goes a lot longer than what I put. I think I might only put 15, 20 seconds up there. But David Banner is talking, and he says, look, would a Jewish person, hear what I'm saying? Colorism versus racism. We're trying to deal with racism and trying to get the racists to teach us about racism, and we go to the racist-filled schools and the racist-filled activities and the racist-filled jobs and all this stuff. But we got to deal with colorism. We still need to figure out colorism. We're going to the racists. Hear what he said. He said, would a Jew ever allow a Nazi to teach their child? The person doing the interview said no. They wouldn't. He said, so why do black people allow their children to be taught by their oppressor? Now, a lot of people probably got mad. I haven't even seen the comment section yet, but a lot of people probably going to be mad, especially some people who are of Eurocentric viewpoint. And they're going to sit up there and they're going to say, oh, see, here you are, you're the problem. A white person could be a teacher, this and that, blah, blah, whatever. We're talking about the culture. I don't care if it's black or white. If they're in the same schools that have to have the same accreditation, doesn't matter if it's an HBCU or not, then what are they teaching? Are they teaching your culture? How many black schools are making sure that you learn Kiswahili? Now, how many black schools are making sure you're learning Spanish and French? How many black schools are going to make sure you learn Patois? How many black schools are going to make sure that you learn Cherokee or Choctaw? Because yes, there are people too. Whether you want to talk about how we were always mixed, or you just want to talk about when there were actually Native Americans that were taught to be enslavers of black people as well, if they wanted to go ahead and be left alone by the Confederacy and certain white groups. And so they fell in line with them too, so that they go ahead and be messed around with them. They started farming the way the white people taught them, even though it was natives that taught them how to farm. Right? Just because your child is going to the best of schools doesn't mean that they're learning the best of their culture, which means they're not learning the best of themselves. So it's just important. Before we can deal with racism, we got to deal with colorism. We have a problem within ourselves, right? We have a problem within ourselves. A black woman says, think about what happens, right? Even amongst ourselves, colorism, right? They ain't black enough. They deserve what they get. A couple examples that I posted, right? Black woman goes out on a date with a white man, older white man. Nobody knows what happened to her, but she ends up dead. The only person she's been with the whole night is this white man. Obviously, there was some trauma done to her body. They went to interview the white man. They said, oh, the white man that she went out with, he sounds like he's a nice guy, so we're not going to question him anymore, right? Black girl dies. I was expecting a whole bunch. I already expected white guys to be like, oh, she's dressed like this. I expected even some chauvinists to be like, well, she's slutty, blah, blah, this and that. But what I didn't expect as much of, right, the heavy majority of the comments that I got that were negative were black people showing up talking about, hey, she went out with a white man, she got what she deserved. Colorism. That's your little sister that got killed. I guarantee you, if it was your blood sister, if it's your physical sister, you wouldn't be talking like that. But you think you have the right to talk about her like that because of colorism. That's why you think that. That's why you think that way. I'm not saying you, but you hear what I'm saying. Our people. There are people that a high number of people, too high a percentage. Any percentage is really too high, but a high percentage of people that just go. And then, of course, those of us that are into Israel, right, that know who we are as far as Israel. Even we were like, well, we're not supposed to date outside of Israel, so that's what she get. In ancient times, let an Israelite woman get drugged like that by somebody else. Israel was going to war. We were going to let out the horses. That meant we were going to get ready to go to war. But we won't fight for that. let a black woman say that I don't want to be dealt with in feminism because a white woman's struggle is not my struggle, and the white woman's struggle is not representing mine. All the way back to Sojourner Truth in 1851, I believe, right? Ain't I a woman? We read that on one of the lines not too long ago. Ain't I a woman? And they didn't even want her to come and speak at the conference that was supposed to be for women, because they said, hey, we don't want you speaking about a struggle that's not ours, because the black woman's struggle is not our struggle. And she came and only spoke for a little bit because they didn't even want her to come, but she came anyways and spoke just for a little bit on Ain't I a Woman? A black woman is a woman as well. And there will be other black sisters, just like back then, that would say, why are you making it black, white, this and that? This is all our struggle. Stop fighting against your sister. Your sister is saying that she's going through something. Maybe you should see what your sister's going through. The feminist struggle, hey, it is what it is. And they together. This is what we want. White men need to give us this. We need to have power. We need to have, people talk so much trash about affirmative action and don't talk about the fact that white women benefited from affirmative action more than any other race, even though they'll have you believe that it was black men and black women who took over. White women benefited from affirmative action more than anybody else. White women are considered to be a minority. So whenever you see minority stuff that happens, white women have an opportunity to be a minority. Now, how's a white woman more of a minority when there's more white women than there are black people? More white women than there are Latino people, or whatever names you want to give them. They're together, taking your stuff, and you don't even know it because you're busy fighting their struggle rather than making sure first, before you can fight another man's struggle and fight with somebody else, you have to at least know who you are. If you still think of yourself as poor, but you're really rich, you can't help somebody who's rich if you still think poor. That's why rich people don't hang out with poor people. It's not on purpose. It's that people that end up rich, not always, you can be born into riches, but a lot of people who are wealthy, they have a wealthy mentality. Even if they have a wealthy mentality that and won't admit that racism helped them to get there, they still have a wealthy mentality. So usually, no matter how much you try, if you're somebody of wealth, it's going to be real hard for you to be able to hang out with people who don't have a wealthy mentality. I'm not saying you have to have the wealth, but you got to at least have the mentality, because people who are wealthy, they do things like get up at 3, 4 in the morning, right? They get up and look at the newspaper and look at investments and stuff for 2 hours straight. They get up and make sure that they're writing out vision plans. They get up and meditate, right? If you have a poor mentality and you don't do those things and you ask for the same thing somebody else is, then you're not going to be able to even get to the same place. And if we're not going to make sure that we as a people can come out of colorism, that's a very poor mentality. We can't keep talking to people and asking, hey, can we sit at the table and can you let us in on what you have the access to, right? It's not going to work. I wish I could say it would. I wish I could say it's supposed to. I wish I could say everybody who doesn't make it work, they're not correct and they're wrong and this and that. But at the end of the day, you have to put in the work for your own people. Your children need to make sure that they have an inheritance, not when you die. Some people don't even do that, right? But not just when you die. Should your children have to worry about, I can't even afford to bury mom and dad. I don't even know what I'm able to do with this, that, etc. Right? Not your children shouldn't just deal with that. Your children should have inheritance the day that they walk out your door. They don't have to have a job. They can only focus on their work and continuing the family business and having their own business and having something they can give to their grandchildren. Because you want to make sure your grandchildren are taken care of. If you can make sure your grandchildren are good, then your children will be fine. That's a wealthy mentality. But in our system, even our own children, right? Deuteronomy chapter 28, around verse 54. Brothers are tender and not prepared. They start looking at each other wild. Then the women, who are supposed to have men that are prepared to help them and to be protectors, they feel like they got to be independent and frozen in fear. They're tender. They start looking sideways at their man and other women. Now both men and the woman, they start looking wild at their children, and their children look wild at each other. And then we have generations that keep doing the same thing. You said you leave your home first, build it. Yeah, you have to build your own community. Where's our food? We talked about that last year. We tried to get that going last year. This year we'll try again, right? I saw a lot of us growing our food. Now this year, why don't we trade some food with each other? Where's our food at? Why do you have to keep going to a store hoping that organic means organic? Where's our food? Take care of home. Where's our clothes? Why do we have to go to a store and pay $100, $150? Shoot, if somebody makes, we got some people in here to make some clothing from scratch. If they do that, right? If they literally are making clothes and making natural clothes for us and everything, like if they ask for $50, fine. But why are we going somewhere and paying $300 for synthetic stuff? Why are we paying $1,000 for a purse? To be able to say, girl, I got at least one purse I can carry around. This is a real one right here. I just keep this for special occasion. For what? Does that take care of your community? All that does is say that I belong to somebody else. Your community still messed up. But if somebody else in your community makes a purse and they ask for $100 for that purse, you say, oh, well, that's asking for too much. Why is $100 too much, but $1,000 you'll work it behind off for? Colorism in your own community. Your own community, you look at it as bad because somebody black made it, and we're taught to be against one another. I know that's not the official definition of colorism. I'm trying to get you behind the spirit of the law, so to speak, if you get it, right? I'm sorry, Reggie said black women who date white guys most likely have talked down on black guys. Sometimes it does happen. Sometimes it does happen. Just like there can be black men that go with white women and they talk down about white women. About black women. And say, I wouldn't go out with a white woman if she blah, blah. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If we learn to respect each other, then that won't be part of this conversation anyways, will it? Right? Even if somebody decides to date, and I'm using quotation marks, right? Date outside of their race, okay? That's not my words. Nevertheless, if somebody dates outside of their race, then they won't date outside their race if they respect themselves. It won't be simply because, hey, white women are better than black women, or that black men or white men are better than black men. If we get ourselves together, we start eliminating that part of the conversation. If we make sure we have land, you don't worry about, hey, he got land and he doesn't. If we make sure we can hire our own, we don't have to worry about, oh, yeah, well, he's able to do this for me and black men can't. If we make sure that our women feel respected and secure, we don't worry about, hey, well, he can make me feel secure, or well, that white woman over there, she'll respect me, blah, blah. That white woman gonna feel respected and feel like she can honor you and stuff because she's in a place where she don't deal with what a black woman does. You said love is colorblind. Love is an action, right? Feeling a certain way about anything or anybody can be colorblind, sure. But if you marry a black man and you're a white woman and act like you don't see color, when that black man goes through his experiences and stuff, either he gonna be holding secrets from you that he needs to talk about with somebody, or you're gonna have weird conversation if he comes home and he says, man, they called me an N-word, and you say, hey, that doesn't matter. You strong. You're my man. Nobody really should see color. They're stupid. No, I don't need you to tell me that you don't see color. I need you to be with me, right? Culturally, I need you to support and defend the culture, right? Whether we want to admit to this stuff or not. If you're going to decide to be with a black man, understand that what comes with a black man is a lot. I was out there with the clean cut, fresh cut, trimmed the beard, close shaved, everything like that, wearing the 3-piece suit, wearing the six-figure, doing the six-figure lifestyle, all that stuff. And guess what? When I walked down the street looking like that, I still was an N-word. When I was sitting up there, Capitol building, Library of Congress, walking in places like that, walking in places I still walk in now, but I just walk in as myself. From time to time, I'm not really in one area anymore more than any other area. But, I'm telling you, I've been in some of the greatest places, being in front of mayors, speaking in front of a lot of people, spoken in front of thousands, whatever. And guess what? Still an N-word. So you can tell me that love is colorblind, but if you're going to be my wife, now my wife is black anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'm just saying, if you're going to be my wife, you got to comprehend that's part of what I deal with. And if you're going to help me and support me and love me when I need to cry on somebody's shoulder too as a man, because sometimes I need to do that too, you're going to have to understand the struggle and not just tell me that love is colorblind. I need you to love me enough to see that people are messing with me because of my color, something that I think is part of me and I love to see in the mirror. Other people, when they see it, they tell me that it's terrible. And I'm fighting this thing that says when I look in the mirror, I want to speak positive affirmation. As soon as I go out, I'm going to hear people telling me that what I look like is negative. So you can say love is colorblind all day, but I need the type of love to where somebody tries to get me to feel bad about my color. They see it enough to tell me that, hey, I support you when others don't support you, including I support your color because your color is part of you and I love you. I don't need it to be colorblind. I need you to love me. My wife doesn't need me to be like, when my wife's dealing with stuff and she's working for corporations. I'm telling you straight up, working for corporations and where my wife is pretty and beautiful. And so people are trying to get her, paying her and stuff and don't even really care, even though she's amazing. She a boss. She does her job excellent, right? Her own business, stuff like that, everything. But before even she did I'm talking about in corporate America, before she started her own business, everything, amazing, right? But when she came back and she was dealing with people, they were sitting up there basically just being like, you just need to be a black pretty girl. You know, you're pretty, you're beautiful. People will listen to you because you're beautiful to a certain extent, but also understand that, hey, you also hit the diversity thing, and we just kind of want you to just shut up and be there. And she needed me to hear her talk about the experience and just instead of being like, well, it doesn't matter. You know, you're making the money and this and that and blah, blah. No, she needed me to hear her experience and to love who she was. Right? She needed me to hear her experience and love who she was, and still needs me to do so. Not just to say, well, you know what, I love you past your color, baby. No, I love you and I love your color. You need to hear that you're amazing. I love everything about you, baby. I love the way that the sun hits your brown skin. I know somebody else there is telling you that they just hired you just to meet a criteria or whatever, and they could care less about you. No, baby, you're greater. You're better than that. And eventually she got over them. And then eventually she decided she wanted to go ahead and take a break from doing that. And now she started her own business. And in every step along the way, I've still been there. I love you. I see you. I support you. I honor you, including your color. Everything about you. Because we're all one. No colorism. We're the same. We live the same. We go through the same experience. Right? And then when we get over that from within each other, that's why it's always cultural. You got to get your culture back. You got to understand in your culture, you being black was acceptable. Not only acceptable, it was part of what you love. Just like, by the way, I'm not mad. If somebody is white loves somebody who else is white and says, one of the things I love about you is that you look like me, by all means do so. That's natural. That's nature. To be attracted to something that looks like you or shares your experience, that's nature. That's natural. I'm not saying that you can't go outside of that. I'm just telling you that's natural. Why not love yourself? Why not love yourself? So colorism got to be attacked first before we start talking about racism. Like we said, we're not here to change the world. We're here to give people who are in the world a place to come out of it. That's our goal. And that's what we're trying to do. That being said, I didn't even plan on being this long. I'm still ending shorter than what we could go, because we could keep talking about this. However, we're going to take our leave here. I thank you so much. I appreciate you all. I thank you for being so enlightened. I thank you for taking some time out to spend with me. You could have been doing anything else, but you decided to stay here for a little bit. We appreciate you all. I'm going to make a quick call and have a quick meeting with somebody, and then I'm going to try and get some rest because we're going to be on the road again. Like we told you guys, when we were talking about in the meetings, by the way, we had the bullet points and stuff. I'm a little behind. Everybody hasn't got the email, the text messages, but we do have the bullet points done. We did have a little bit of update. We're going to make sure every day, basically before we get on the live, you should be able to see a little bit more update on the website. So just keep paying attention to that. And the classes, even if not all the information for the classes is up, at least you can see what each class is going to be, what time and date those classes are. If you want to go to Kofi-Ofori.com, Kofi-Ofori.com to be able to find out what that's going to be. And remember, every early rising session is going to be on Monday. Our early rising sessions, those who want to get up with us on Zoom only at 6:30. I'm on at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. We start at 6:45 a.m. Eastern, New York time. And we make sure that we do specific Bible study as well if you'd like to join us for that. Tomorrow we'll be back on, as we always are, every rising, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We'll be in part 3 of the Revelation series. I believe we're starting at Revelation chapter 2, verse 12. If you'd like to be able to join us and see the perspective and the cultural perspective on that, feel free to join us. We appreciate you. We honor you. Once again, check out my wife, the Honorable Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, but the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. You can follow her on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest. And we're getting ready for another clothing drive at the end of this month. So if you'd like to be a participant in that and help to be a blessing in the community, we appreciate you for doing that as well. You can look up information on all the stuff that we do in different places you can follow us on or donate stuff to or whatever. You can just look on our TikTok page and look up look at the you can look in the bio. You can also look in our website at the link tree, and you should be able to click on a whole bunch of stuff that we have going on. I thank you all. I appreciate you. And as always, our prayer is that you not only be in tune with the Most High and you have heard this message from him, you also study for yourself. You pray about it. You decipher it. There's a word I'm looking for. Holy Spirit, help me. Help me. Meditate and fast over it, etc. Study it, etc. So that you can not only have heard this, but you begin to apply it in your life. Thank you so much for being on. Appreciate the King, Queen, each and every one of you. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, in you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Kwam Yashrael. Peace. Talk to you later. Bavakasha. And we wish you Kofi, which means that we want you to have peace that surpasses all understanding. Shalom.